whenever. At some point, we'll speak to each
At
other
some
about
point,
everything
there will
at
be
some
speaking
point.
one
Yeah.
day. I
Yeah.
just need to pencil in like a fortnightly chat just to.
Yeah. That's it. We get too much built up. If it's not
We do.
weekly, it's like it's a lot otherwise. We've not
It
even
is.
touched on summer holiday madness.
Oh, God, I'm
I
not
think
even.
maybe we just didn't want to.
Well,
Just like
this
not
is
gonna
it.
not gonna talk
I,
about that.
no, I've been feeling so guilty. The kids have been doing stuff, and I'm like, oh God, we've done nothing yesterday and today. But we were out all of one day. It was my mum's birthday,
Yeah.
and we were out all day the day before,
Hmm.
food and places, and the kids fed lemurs, and Reese has got a big scratch down the
Nice.
back.
Oh,
Tiny little
not
place we
so
found,
nice.
and it's really cool. It wasn't funny, but it was. So it's a tiny little place, and they went and they fed the lemurs, and it cost us like 20 quid each for the kids, but all of
Yeah.
us kind of went and got in, and we fed and did it
Hmm.
anyway. Um, yeah, I don't know what my point was going to be, but yeah, we're walking through with these trays, and the dude's like, cling to them for the love of God, because otherwise they will
Oh,
come at you.
right. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I just heard this, and I turned around to this lemur on Reese's head.
Wow. Oh my God.
And she's like, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. So I'm kind of holding a
Oh,
lemur
bless.
and a bowl. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
There we go.
Jeez. Yeah, they'll remember
But
that. You're
well,
making
this is it.
memories.
And it's like, what? It just, when you look at a day that costs you 200 quid, and it's like, well, what? I can't
I
take you out
know.
every other day.
This
That's
is
it
the,
for the week.
yeah, that's very much the problem we've had. We've decided that we need to decorate Penny's room because she's
Mm.
in Lily's old room, which was decorated for when Lily was born. So, like,
Bless
she
her.
needs a new room. You know, she's had her bed upgraded and stuff. She's not still in a toddler bed, but
Just
like
legs out the bottom.
that again was like Lily's next bed. I know what it's like being the second child. You get like the next thing. And I was like, we
Yeah, yeah.
really need. She's got a very clear idea of what she'd like, and she asked for it, and it's like, right, we need to do this. But it's that, and then like you say, like just a random day, just taking them into like Eastbourne. Like so when I was doing the signing and Dan had them walking around the shops for a couple of hours. 50 quid gone.
Yeah,
Do you know what
gone.
I mean? It's like, and then you add in like, well, if we're going to take them to a place and everything's so expensive, it's just been really difficult. They are doing stuff.
Yeah.
And then Dan's keeps getting his holiday. Like he's had 2 long weekends and he was meant to have every weekend be a long weekend, but he didn't get the first weekend. And now he's cancelled this weekend
You're
because
working.
of work stuff. So it's like, okay, so the plans, so like the plans I was banking on doing with them when we
Yeah,
had the car and we were all together and we were going to go and do something, well, they're not going to happen now
yeah.
because I'd already arranged Lily's got a sleepover, so we can't do them on the Saturday. And it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, and then we're going to try and fit in the decorating too. It's been a bit of a, yeah,
Yeah, pain in the ass. This is
fun,
it. But,
fun.
I think of my holidays, and it was just go out and play.
I don't remember doing much at all. We
If
used to have
anything, no.
like a swap over with cousins. I don't think I saw any friends for like
No.
the whole of the summer. Um until I got to the age where I could arrange that myself and go
Yeah.
out by myself. Yeah, I just used to be at home. I just used to be at home, watch telly, watch videos, read
Yeah.
books,
Yeah.
play with my toys.
Reese is going through some more of Gilmore Girls, and it's like, well, this is
Oh,
Ellie's been out
that's
with a
what they've
mate.
been doing. They've been
Yeah.
obsessed with watching Gilmore Girls for what, to the point where I had to say to him, I think you need to give it a break now because it's actually giving me a headache. There's a lot of arguing in it. It's like,
Yeah, well, I
whew.
can imagine.
um, but yeah, but then I remember doing things like that. I remember having, and then they're not bad memories of summer. I remember me and my sister like having a nice little routine where we'd get up and we'd watch like, the early morning telly, which would be California Dreaming and like all
Surf
that
dudes with
stuff.
attitudes. Kind of
Exactly.
groovy.
You knew. I knew you know. And but like and like old reruns of Grange Hill and stuff like
Oh,
that.
God, yeah.
And then it'd be
That
like,
was
oh,
about it.
okay, maybe mum needs us to go shopping with her or something and
This
come
is it.
back. Like
I'm nipping to the shops. Do you want to come with me? No. Are we going to get a frappe?
you might
No.
you might score one of those felt pictures to
Ah,
like colour in.
yes. Love those.
Sorted for the afternoon.
Yes.
Bit more telly or a film or something. dinner
Job's done.
time. Maybe in the garden you got to have it because it was summer if it was
This
good
is
weather.
it.
But
Yeah, a picnic in the garden.
my problem is, oh well, I'm sure it's many people's problems, is all their friends are off to these
Um,
exotic
yeah,
places.
gallivanting.
Yeah, like half the people we know have gone to Disneyland this year.
Oh, have they?
It's like, just fuck off,
Jesus.
stop it.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so that's not made it easy for
this is it.
expectation. And they're not bad in terms of expectation level. Like
No.
they're really excited if I say, okay, I'll take you swimming. Do you know
Oh,
what I
bless.
mean? So they enjoy it, and I don't like going swimming, so it's like it does get pushed a bit.
Oh,
So
God, no.
I'm waiting till Penny's just that bit older and more confident in the
Mm.
water, and then they can go in by
Go by
themselves.
themselves.
Yeah,
Yep, this is
I'll
it.
just be at
Yeah.
the side reading a
Oh,
book.
seriously, that. Mummy, what are you doing? What do you think I'm doing, children? Come on. You think you'd know by now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yes.
yeah, they've done something every week. But yeah, the guilt's gonna. I don't think the guilt ever goes away, does it? When, as you
Yeah.
said, when somebody's going to Disneyland, and we've
Well,
had
this is it.
somebody today who's gone, oh, do you know she's going to the Eras tour? And I was like, don't know how she's got tickets. I'm sure they said they'd not got tickets. So Reese was a bit miffed that somebody we know quite
Yeah.
well suddenly going. I'm like, I think Mum has probably paid like 700 quid per ticket off one of these resale sites, and it's like, I just, if I've got 2 grand, then I'm putting it on a budget for Disney, which I look at my budget and it's like 6 years in the making to pay for
Oh,
all of us to
yeah.
go.
This is it. I don't know
So,
how. I've got my cousin's like obsessed with Disney, and I don't know how they're doing. I know she earns well. I know both of them earn really well. He's a bailiff
oh, okay.
in Kensington.
Oh, nice.
He's got the Kensington area, so he basically the people that live there are so rich they don't care about parking where they park,
So
and
they'll
so
just pay
and
the
they just
fines.
pay the fines. Although he does say that the rich people are the worst people to try and get the money
Of
off,
course
but
they.
it's not
It's how they
them
get
that
the
pay
money.
it; it's their staff. Their staff will deal with it. Um, so I know he earns well, and she's like a PA to one of the like head honchos at Deutsche Bank. Um,
Blimey.
so they got good money, but still they go to Disney like 2 to 3 times a year.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's mental. So
that's
it's like
crazy.
16 grand basic for us 5 to go for two
Uh-huh.
weeks.
Yeah.
That's, yeah,
I know they've done it, and it's been short, like short breaks, not for the
yeah.
full, because usually people go like at least 2 weeks, don't they? 2.5 usually. But they've done like shorter ones, but I still like, God, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's mental.
But hey,
Especially if you're staying on site, because that's. Ugh.
I don't
Well,
know.
no, actually, I've done the cost between the two because Disney has got the monopoly. They charge you the same as everybody else does
Yeah,
because they're not stupid, because they know that once you're there, you'll pay all the
yeah,
prices inside anyway.
yeah,
So
yeah. They
they
don't
give you a
need
decent
to.
thing for food. Yeah, they don't need to, so they
Mm,
undersell everybody. So
yeah.
you get a fantastic deal. But this
Mm,
is it. We went because me and Rob were made redundant, and I had 10 grand in the bank that I put aside for it. And for
yeah,
the us then, we didn't have to pay for 3 of them because
yeah.
they were tiny.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what covered us. We didn't need
Yeah.
to buy all the shit because they were tiny. They had a princess dress each, and they were happy.
Yeah, exactly.
But
That's
now
it,
they're
isn't
bigger.
it?
It's ain't happening.
Yeah. And it's all the
Tripled in price.
extra
Funny.
passes to get on things as well,
Well,
isn't it? And
this is
stuff
it.
like
Yeah,
that.
it's like Alton Towers. You don't just wait in the queue anymore. You can pay
Yeah.
30 quid and get 3 lightning passes, and it's like I've paid 200 quid to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Put me on a
Yeah.
flipping ride.
Oh
Ugh.
no.
Mm.
But yes.
Anyway, yes.
Okay, we
Crosses
should
to
do I
bear.
think
Yes,
are
we
we
should. We
recording?
should.
Yes,
Another
we are
50 minutes.
recording. We're just
Yeah.
recording at the
Oh, oh
moment.
God.
It's all
Okay.
right. Okay. Right. So where shall we start? Where so let's
Where's a good
begin
place
that
to start?
again. Let's start again. um So the first thing that everybody seemed to say, and I think it's
Okay.
the same as we kind of said when we were talking about it, was most people, because I went on social media and I think you did a similar thing,
I
which we're
did
going to
indeed.
talk about, was Anne Rice and
Hmm.
Interview with the Vampire. Most people, if I asked, where do you think it kind of started? And they will go, oh, well, I think like Interview with
Yeah.
the Vampire was kind of the first thing. And I don't feel that it was, but I feel that it leads into it. because I've
Okay.
read maybe 3, 4 of at least 4 of the no 5 of her series of vampire books. And I would say they've got very strong there's a lot about love in them. They're
Hmm.
romantic in the way that they talk about a lot of love, but it's very it's one of those things that she was so adamant about, wasn't it? Was that, that vampires are asexual. Not aromantic, but asexual,
Okay.
I think. Um so they have these intense feelings for each other, and then they like they all go off on their wanderings throughout the continents and things like that. Um, so it's not the the focus of the story is not a romance that is how we would recognize a romance
No,
being, here's
as
a
of now.
couple or
Yeah.
more than that who move through and get to a happy ending and decide they're all going to stay together kind of thing. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah, what I found, so I do, no offense to anybody, because people get offended by lots of things. I found that there were tiers. So that
yeah.
would be a jump that everybody go, oh, it's got to be Anne Rice. It's got to be
Yeah,
this. It's
yeah.
got to be that. And then you would get the people who were more in the know a little bit further back than I was, who would go, actually,
Ah, yeah.
it is that line between what are you wanting? Do you want, I had a lot of people, because I was on Reddit with my stuff,
Yeah, yeah.
going, actually, what do you want? Do you want fantasy with some romance, or do you want romance with some fantasy?
Mhm.
And there were
The big
people, yeah,
romanticy debate that is
yes.
going.
So
Yeah.
this was the thing. So the deeper you delve down, you found the people who were more in the know and who paid a, I don't want to say paid a bit more attention, read more into it than just
Yeah.
kind of the people who just dabble in and out of it.
Yeah, because
So
if you
that's,
say like fantasy romance or paranormal romance, I found you got lot of people suggesting things that I would not class as romances
mhm,
because they don't have the romance as the central element of the story.
yes,
Yeah, rather than, so that's the thing, isn't it? Romantic fantasy is fantasies that have very strong romantic subplots, but it's not the driving factor
yeah,
of the
behind it all.
story.
Well, this is it. I
Yeah.
had people mentioning Dracula as well, because obviously there's a chunk. Well, there is a chunk in there of Mina and Jonathan who are
Oh,
together.
right. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was going to say
and
it's
yeah,
not with Dracula, is it?
well, no, but
Hmm.
no. Well, he does like Mina, and he did have
He
his
likes.
lady, and yeah, he did
Yeah.
like Mina a lot. But yeah, that romantic thread was in there, but it
Yeah.
wasn't the main beef of it.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said to you, so I had certain people going way back,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Well, what about the Iliad? What
Yeah, I
about
had
kind
someone
of
say that
yeah,
on
I like the
TikTok as well.
Iliad?" And I wrote them down. So yeah, I spoke to you about the round table stuff and Lancelot and Guinevere,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
then Midsummer Night's Dream was put out. Luckily, nobody said Romeo and Juliet, because that would have been a
Yeah.
conversation we had to nix
That's
quite
actually
quickly.
in my book. There's a conversation
Oh,
about how
with that,
Romeo and Juliet
it's
isn't a
not a
romance.
romance.
No,
It's
no.
very. Do you not know what happens at the end?
Yeah. Mm-mm.
No.
No, no.
Yeah.
Um,
So
okay.
going through, it's
Yeah.
that far back that people told those stories, and it was all included. But
Sure. Yeah.
mm,
But like when I think of Greek, Greek mythology and stuff, it's like, yes, there are romances, but I think there is a reason that we retell them in a modern way with the romance being the focus, because they didn't really end happily most of the time, did
well,
they?
no,
So
yeah,
again, no, I get it. It's like, yes, obviously it harks back to that thing of there's only so many stories and they all feed in. But I think what we were trying to get to grips with was, when do we first start to recognize the combination of fantasy or paranormal with romance
yeah,
in a
as
way
a
that we recognize our modern
yeah, our take on it
genre?
now. Yeah.
Yeah, like when does it start to move into that? Because I mean, we did the special with Two Lit Chicks, didn't we, as well? And they were talking about, they had some suggestions, and Julia had said things like oh, what was it? Cushell's Dart
Hmm.
and so some other ones, I think it's like Mist of Avalon and things like that, which are, again, I think it's a similar thing in that they're romantic, but they're not romances.
No.
And that's, I wanted to try and find, when I was doing my digging, I wanted to try and find things that I recognized as romances.
Yeah.
And I've got what I think is one of my first ones. But what I came across interestingly when I started to dig in different places and look up different sort of early books in the genre is that they came in from different places. It wasn't like, boom, here's a paranormal romance. It
Okay.
was like more that they had elements that crossed over with other things. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes.
Okay. So, did you find something like that? Have you got a book that you identified, or a few different authors or something that you look at and you're like, oh, I think this is my first tier of
Okay.
kind of.
So I went looking through time. So I was kind of like, okay, I know where I started, and it
Mm-hmm.
was around the 2000, mid 2000
Yeah.
mark. And then I went and looked at that sort of stuff. I was like, okay, then what came before that? Because the stuff that I was reading was a big wave of stuff, which we'll
Yeah.
mention later. And it was stuff that loads of people, not just paranormal or fantasy readers, will know. People will know the names. All
Yeah.
romance readers will know the names. So
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, what was the next one? What was the one before that? What was the one before
Mm-hmm.
that? So I started looking at the decades and stuff. So it wasn't necessarily one book I picked out. I was then finding a few
Okay, cool.
authors
You
that
might
were
have
kind of
found a
like,
lot more than me then.
well, I've got a chunk of stuff, and it's like,
Oh,
okay. So
wow.
then it was, yeah, I'd find a book and then it would link to the series. So that was kind of like, oh, actually,
Mm.
that kind of fits with how I see it now. Obviously, not all of them are in a series, but that does seem to be a very big thing within fantasy and
Yeah.
paranormal. You have a book and the series kind of merges
I
from
I
then.
noticed that there was like a very much like you saying about like the ones that we think of as being um ones we started off with. More so you, I think. I was more in the YA camp of, fantasy romance and stuff
Yes.
coming in. Um, which was kind of happening at the same time. I was
Well,
seeing.
I found so many YAs in the 80s that
Yeah,
people were saying, yeah, this is the one. It's like, okay, I wouldn't read them myself, but yeah, they are
because it's
very
a
much the
YA.
gateway in. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking of them more as what's the adult ones that are
Yes.
like, because
But that,
that is the problem. There's never really been as much of an issue getting like recognize it in YA in terms of me and you like being in the doing the fantasy chapter, and it was only a few years ago where we were like the UK doesn't want, or the UK publishers don't
didn't
want
want it.
fantasy romance or paranormal romance because they saying there's no audience for it, but YA will take it. So it was
Yes.
very much like an adult issue, an adult
Yeah.
publishing issue rather than a YA thing.
Mm.
So yeah. So what I found, um it was, the first one I found was in about 1985, and it
Okay.
was I don't know how exactly to say her name. Jane Ann Krantz. I think that's
Hmm.
how you say her surname. And it
Okay.
was Sweet Starfire. And this was actually, she was inspired to write it because she was writing contemporaries. And in the contemporaries, one of the characters was writing a sci-fi novel. And the readers were really enjoying these little snippets. So she was like, right, I'm gonna
Push a bit
actually
further.
write that novel. And then she went on to write a series. But that's the book I've been reading.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm just, this book is almost as old as me. And honestly, I have read it and I'm like, this would be published now with some very minor tweaks to it, probably because it's like, I think that's the thing that helps, isn't it? It makes it more timeless, fantasy and paranormal romance. It's outside. And the reason even though it's sci-fi, I'm kind of classing it is because other than them being in another world, the main thing about it is that there's like extrasensory powers.
Okay.
Not massively, but and they're like humans have gone to another place and they've evolved in different ways. So there's harmonics and there's wolves, but they don't shift. Not that yet.
Not
We're
yet.
not that. But
Gotta jump to the 90s for that.
what I have been reading it and being like, oh well, it's very changelingy.
Yes.
It's very much like the wolves are ruled by, but human impulses, which are more base and violent and passionate and all that. And the harmonics are much more like, the Psy, in the it's all about harmony and calm, serenity, that sort of thing. Um, and that kind of led me to thinking about the overlaps of the different genres, like elements of them, because we've had this thing where we've talked about like what's the difference between paranormal and monster, really, because
Yes.
paranormal, a lot of, depending on the paranormal, it's creatures, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
vampires and werewolves. And what's really the difference between a vampire and a demon?
Yeah.
There's not a lot,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. Bigger claws, smaller fangs. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
More
it.
tentacles.
So yeah, I was interested from that perspective about, okay, so what was already being published and then what fed into it, kind of. And I think the other thing, because I don't tend to think of it so much as paranormal, but it blatantly is classed under like the heading, the description is time travel. And time travel seems to have been something that was accepted a lot earlier than getting in there with the vampires and the werewolves.
Yes. But
So,
this was always a thing we've spoken about for years, that time
mhm.
slips and stuff are, oh, we can do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
That's
it.
not really fantasy
Because
or
it's
anything, is it?
still people
Yeah.
being normal people. They're just in
Yeah.
different times.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I led in. But who
Yeah.
did you come up with from the 80s
Okay.
then?
So I've got some names. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so it was a chunk of YA in the 80s. So I'll give them an honorary mention. So Robert
Mm-hmm.
McKinley, Anne McCaffrey, Tamora Pierce, and they all had little
Okay. Yeah,
series
yeah.
which were the YA grouping.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came to, there was Claudia Edwards, which is 87, which I picked
Okay.
because it had a love triangle in it,
Oh,
which I picked to you.
it's
Even
fine.
going back to the
It's
80s.
fine.
Made me titter. But yeah, again, this was kind of
Well, you
more.
go back to Lancelot and
Yeah,
Guinevere. It's the,
yeah.
you know,
Oh
love
God, that's
triangles.
the original. But yeah,
Yeah.
so these were, again, I think they were kind of considered more fantasy with the romance
Okay.
on top, but it
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
lot more romance than
Mm-hmm.
what I was seeing in the other books. And the other one was Marion Zimmer Bradley, which was The Mists
Oh,
of
yeah.
Avalon, which was quite
Mm-hmm.
early. It was 83.
Mm-hmm.
So, but what I
Should
did find, which is not my words,
Okay.
not my words, but it may
Oh
be very
God.
true,
Yeah.
was people were saying it's men. No offense just to the gender, but it was men were doing the fantasy. And then when women came to write the fantasy and added a touch more of the romance to it, that's when it started to sort of pinwheel a bit more and tumble down
Okay.
that way. So they were
Mm-hmm.
saying a lot of it that I found was men writing for men with sex in it, but then the women sort of brought the romance. And that's why you
Okay.
see it kind of start building in the late 80s, early 90s.
Fair enough. Okay. So you've kind of come at it from the perspective of here's the fantasy already, and
Yes.
he's just going to get more and more involved with the romance. And
Yeah,
I kind
there's
of
the
came at it
shift.
from here's the romance writers, and they're
They've done it the
starting
other
to
way.
be able to put in, explore different genres, because
Yes.
I was like thinking about also what would have been in the media, what would have made it more acceptable, what stuff was out there. Like later on, I think the period we're thinking of as like our core period that leads into like now, Buffy was a massive thing.
Yes.
And I think something like that would have definitely inspired lots of people in terms of urban fantasy, and the way
Charmed
that,
as well, coming in a bit
yeah,
after.
that's it. That thing of like, you have usually like a female protagonist who has a lot of different relationships, but there tends to be an end goal one, and it stretches across like
Yeah.
more than one book kind of thing. So that's like another form of it, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah, and again, like I'm saying with the it being more of an offshoot, there was I think it was Kate Johnson mentioned on our TikTok about a book she really, really loved, which was A Knight in Shining Armor, and somebody else mentioned it as well somewhere else.
Okay.
By I think it's Jude Devereux, Devereux, I don't know how to
Devereaux,
say.
yes.
That's it.
Yeah, name rings
Um
a bell.
and it's again, it's like an offshoot because she was writing a historical romance series, which follows this family through like different generations, I think. And then she wrote one which was like a time travel one, a time slip. Like I think the night comes into modern times. I've got it, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet. And that was about 89.
Okay.
So again, it's like, so the romance writers are starting to pull in these other elements. And I know there'd been like Lady of Hay, which has been mentioned before. And that one's a weird one because I class that more as like a time slip. It kind
Mm.
of came up, but because she doesn't physically go back, she's like going through hypnosis and
Oh,
remembering
okay.
past lives, and it's part of like King John and Richard and stuff like that. Um, so you get all it's more dual timeliney type stuff, but she's experiencing it because it is her in a past life. So it's still got paranormal
Yeah,
elements, I
elements, but
guess.
not really
Yeah, but
delving in.
not physically there kind of
Yeah.
thing. So yeah.
Okay. Makes
Mm.
sense. But yeah, what I found, so when I finished with the 80s, I jumped into the 90s, as you do.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Patricia Briggs came up early 90s,
Okay.
93,
Yeah, I've got her
which,
down as well.
yeah.
Yep.
So her masks I've got is, I think, the first one that she did. I don't know if you've gone that far. So that was in
Oh, okay.
1993. And she's
Oh,
kind of
right.
still out and about there now. She's epic up
Was
on the
that
werewolves and
YA or was
everything.
that adult?
Oh, I don't know. I do not
Oh,
recall.
okay. Because I've got her much later for like in like 2006
Yeah.
for like
Mm.
a Moon Called, which is the urban fantasy one. I think a lot of people know that one, don't
Starting of
they?
the big series, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know she went back that far. I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
not
Well, this was
dig
it. So when I
far
looked
enough.
through the 90s, there were so many daughters. Daughters of the Forest by Juliet. I can't even.
Yeah.
Marilia.
We've covered
Daughters
that
of
one.
Blood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I already spoke about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was one
Daughters
of
of
my
Blood.
gateways.
Yeah. Daughters of Blood. Children of the
Hmm.
Night. And I'm like, ladies of this.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Hmm.
all the
I
women are
saw a
definitely
lot of
coming out kicking
those.
and screaming.
Yeah. We've
So,
got,
yeah.
did you get Justine Davis as well? Did she
Oh,
come up?
I check the other side of my notes. No, I've not got that one in there. But yeah,
Okay.
this was kind of a lot of them seem to leap out in
Yeah.
the mid 90s going, actually, you know what?
Yeah.
We've done this bit. Now let's just twist it a little bit more
Yeah.
and just go at it.
Yeah, that's it. So I got Justine Davis Angel for Hire, which was 1991. So it's
Yes.
like having like a guardian angel come down to look after this woman kind of thing.
Nice.
Um, And then around like 97, Christine Feehan,
Yes. Yes,
who
she is.
does
Yes, I know all of the stuff
loads,
now. Yeah.
very
Massive,
prolific.
massive still now.
Um, and there was Nora Roberts obviously comes up too because she writes across lots of genres. I did not
Mhm.
go through her list and see which
No,
was the
to be.
first one that she wrote. I've read some of her like paranormal romance ones, but I didn't. I couldn't face digging through it. I'll be honest. I'm
Brutal
sorry.
honesty, it's all good.
No, it's fine. And Maggie Shane as well, which is I think one of the ones you mentioned, like it was Daughters of something,
Yeah,
or
daughters of all the things. Yeah.
it was a
Woods
witchy
and
one.
forests
So
and
like
lands and.
focused on, yeah, witches and that, which has obviously become popular again.
Well, this is it. It kind of feeds round and around. But yeah, going
Hmm.
back to your point. So when I jumped to the
Mm.
2000s, which is when I kind of stepped into it more, um, I found a lot of the people who I was reading, their first and second and third books were contemporary still, even in
Oh yeah,
2000s. They
yeah.
were out there. So it was,
Mm-hmm.
so I've got Nalini Singh, obviously. Slave to Sensation was the first one that everybody knew about with the
Yeah.
changelings. Presley Cole, The Warrior Wants Forever. J.R.
Mm-hmm.
Ward with her Black Dagger Brothers, and Gina Showalter. She had one in 2004, was the
Okay.
oldest of that chunk of very well-known
Mm-hmm.
authors
Yeah.
who went back that far. But yeah, the other three all started, I think, with actual just contemporary stuff a
Yeah.
little bit earlier, and
It's
then
almost
kind of,
like having to prove yourself and
yeah,
then be like, now you know I'm
yeah.
selling stuff
Can
for
I
you.
try this,
Can I
please?
just give this a go? Because some people like it. It's good.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of coincides with, like we were saying about the YA stuff, obviously Twilight blowing up and the YA scene blowing up with it
Hmm.
all. And then the film coming out. And it seems like that all converges for those authors really establishing themselves
Yeah.
in like fantasy and paranormal. And then Mills and Boone started the Nocturne imprint in about
Oh, did
2009, which was a lot
okay.
later than I thought it would be. But then that's probably more time passed than, than I
Well,
tend
this
to
is it. I'm
think.
kind of thinking these are 2005, and I'm like, that's not that long.
That's
Oh,
not,
that's
oh, it's
20
20 years
years.
ago. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
didn't want to think about that too much more
yeah,
after that.
we went along like similar lines. And I think the urban fantasy stuff again is like a crossover because a lot of it has kind of a crime or an action element to it,
Mm,
which I think it kind of, I don't know, it's like it crosses into a genre which they know sells in another kind of way. Like I can imagine it would appeal to an audience that might not have read paranormal or fantasy, but they would accept it from this writer or something, because they'd already, like you said, they'd done contemporaries and
well,
it was
yeah, I
just,
think Nalini Singh is a good one with that because she had the angels, didn't she? Which,
yeah.
you kind of look at it and go, angels. But there is
Mm,
a lot of murder and investigation and crime
yeah,
scenes and
yeah.
stuff. And you can actually kind of go, okay, you can kind of forget the wings every so often because they are in it and it's, I
Yeah.
don't, but some
No
could.
one, no one, well, yeah, some people probably do, but
Yeah.
we don't ignore the wings.
No, we never ignore the
The wings
wings.
are a good bit. They're an important bit. Yeah, and there's like Alona Andrews, who I've read
Yeah,
a
we have.
couple of, like
Yep, yep.
I've gone on a big binge for them. They were around. And Kelly Armstrong, who I think is oh, what is it? Kate Daniels ones. They were kind
Oh,
of
yes.
the big the big thing. Yeah, and then that kind of brings us up to
Yeah.
where we're getting to
Present
now,
day. Well,
I
yeah, a lot of
think.
these ones in the early 2000s are still kind of going strong today.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. I was actually on Threads today, and weirdly, as is the way, someone had posted something about like, I'm really shocked, all these people who are enjoying romantasy are not talking more about like Kushel's Dart and things like that. Um, And then somebody else had gone, oh, if you like romantasy, why don't you try these older authors? And it was a list of like some of these people that I'd already
Yeah.
put on a list. And I was like, old, but they're not old. And then Lily sings that old. I chatted to her about it. I wasn't like debating. It was like the
Yeah.
same thing. She was like, they don't feel old to me, but to young readers who are only just
Yeah,
coming
it's
into it, and they think it's brand new because it's only just become a wave going through publishing. I mean, that
yeah.
was the whole reason we started this podcast, was
Because
because
there was just nobody
we
out there wanting it.
that's
Well,
it, we
everybody wanting it, nobody
recognized,
putting it out
yeah,
there.
there was
Yeah.
readers enjoying it, but publishers kept saying that they didn't want it,
No,
and then
nobody
they
wants to read
suddenly
this.
did.
Yeah.
So,
They do
which is
now.
great
Yeah.
because that means there's loads out there now. But it
Hmm.
does mean that, yeah, it just made me really curious about like digging back in time and seeing how, like, yeah, the paranormal thing was interesting, seeing how that kind of formed and came because of everybody saying about Anne Rice. That was what kind of niggled at me, and I was like, well, how did we get from Anne Rice vampires, which were clearly horror? So if you think about like Interview with the Vampire, it is horrific.
Yeah.
They turn a child and, clearly like it's about there's grief and depression and and
Oh
there's not
God.
it's
Yeah,
hard.
it's not what you want to read on a
No.
jolly Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and like the stat's meant to be quite a frightening character, isn't it? Although she goes on and writes many more books about him, and he becomes a rock star with stuff.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've gone through a few of them. But yeah, it was clearly like, you think of the plot and what things are happening, and there's like the theater in Paris, isn't there, with Armand and the vampires who like they lure people in and then they attack them in the
You eat
audience
them
and
all.
stuff. That made me think of Catherine Moon and her what is it? The
Oh,
Company of Fiends?
yeah, I never remember. Yes, yes, I
Yeah.
believe that's the one of them.
Yeah, that's like the second one, isn't it? When it's actually
Yes.
in the theater. They visit it in the first one, but they
Rooksgrave's the first one, yeah.
yeah.
Rooksgrave Manor. Yeah.
But it made me think of that. There's
Yes,
like
where they
all
all
these
go and watch
elements
and
that like feed through. So I
whereas
did,
now she's knobbing them all on the stage. It's all good.
yeah, never
Not
done
eating
that.
them.
Mm.
Well, maybe a
Um,
little bit, but
and they don't attack people in the
yeah,
crowd.
not to the death.
No. Um, yeah, but that made me do like a Venn diagram
Yes,
because
so you
I
did
got
tell me about your
silly.
Venn diagram.
I did.
You've not shared it with
Yeah.
me or the world yet. So you do need
Okay.
to do
So
this.
let me just check. I've not got anything else. I'll take down the Facebook page. Good.
All the porn.
Yeah.
So much porn.
We talk about it, we don't show it.
Oh, I don't want to see. I just want to read about it.
Right. That's it. Let's see if I can do the sharing thing. It's changed. Zoom has changed, so
We've been away for a long time.
one participant can share at that time. Oh, it's on that. So how do I do it and show it? What? Ah, there we go. That one. So this, can you see it? There we go.
Not yet. Oh,
Oh,
here we
is it
go.
up? Here it is. I went
You
all
have been having fun,
geeky.
haven't you?
I have. I did enjoy that. It's halfway through the summer holidays. So,
Love
like,
Pray
because I
both,
was
probably.
thinking science fiction because of the Sweet Starfire and where it came
Mm.
from, and horror because of Anne Rice. And it was making
Mm-hmm.
me think, well, where do these like cross over and become like paranormal romance? And then I added in Gothic as well, because why not?
God.
So you've got humans with extrasensory powers just in the middle.
Yes,
The whole
because there always
thing.
is.
There always is. Time travel, you get in science fiction and in paranormal romance, although it's not one of the things I think of, but clearly that's what it's classed under.
Somebody does, yeah.
Yeah. So in horror, you've got your shifters, ghosts, vampires, witches as well, which are in paranormal romance. Um, then you've also got the science fiction thing, and the horror crossover was difficult because I wasn't focused on that. But then I thought, well, there are quite a lot of crossovers, as in you get a lot of body horror in
Mm.
both. You get
Well, well, this is it. Rob mentioned earlier, and we were chatting about it me and the other half earlier, and he's like, "But where does Star Wars fit in? Because it's sci-fi, but there's a massive romance in that between Leia and Han." It's like,
yeah.
yeah, again, sci-fi with romance. This is so
This
yeah.
is it. Yeah.
Mm,
And I think I've missed probably a whole section of like space opera, which
yes,
probably I
we
know
still yeah.
there's loads about that. And I'm getting far more into like sci-fi. I'm like finding a lot of sci-fi romances that I really enjoy.
Mm.
And I think they fit more in that kind of, I wouldn't say space opera because that makes it sound quite big, as in, there's like galactic wars and stuff.
So many
But
gladiators in
mm,
space.
but yeah, there's a yeah, in space you get like the isolation, which also turns up in horror, and the robots are going to kill you kind of thing, which is
Hmm.
sci-fi and horror. Um, yeah, and then I thought I'd add in gothic because you
Creepy
get creepy
houses.
houses and shifting identities, and
Mm.
then the paranormal romance and the gothic crossover, as well as all the shifters and
All
things.
of the things.
Love, pray. Are you love? Are you pray? You're both,
Probably both. Yeah.
probably. Yeah, that's it. So that was the fun I had. And I probably
There we
could have gone on and added more because I didn't go into fantasy. And then I
go.
didn't go into, like, I thought, can I split out monster romance? No.
No.
But yes. but that would be too complicated. Yeah.
So
So
I love the way that I'm going through book after book after book, and you're putting these pictures together. This is where our
yeah,
brains go.
that's it. It's so I love that. I love seeing how well we came to kind of the same
Well, I was going to
conclusions.
say, what is the Venn diagram between you and me?
Yeah,
That would be
that's
an
it.
interesting one.
Well, it means we managed to cover a lot of ground for
Yeah,
people.
all the bases.
That's it. It's all in service to the readers.
Okay, so before we finish,
Yeah.
where do you think it goes next? Is the
Oh,
question.
oh, you did not prepare me for that kind of
Sorry,
thing.
I didn't think about it until just now. That's how my head works.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, because we've moved into an area that I don't think was touched upon, which was the cozy area. Um,
No.
which because it's kind of gone like, I mean, I suppose that's almost a little bit full circle because it's going back to kind of Dungeons and Dragons type feel of books,
Mm-hmm.
but without the high stakes. So it's like a retelling of that, isn't it? So what else is being? I mean, I would even say monster romance is a little
Well,
bit like that, isn't
I
it? Because
don't
it's
know. I
like,
think Monster came in very quickly to me.
mm,
And it came in and it took control over loads of stuff. And
yeah,
it's still up there, but it's found its place really quickly, whereas everything else has been a bit more gradual.
yeah,
So I don't know if it's kind of now just already slotted itself in and has nowhere else to go. And it's just
yeah. I know,
I found my
because
place. I'm done.
I do feel like it's just not just, but like it's an extension of paranormal
Yes.
romance
Yeah,
because of
it's
the
people now
elements.
feel that they've done the vampires and the werewolves. They can
Yeah, they just
push
wanted
out
some
to the
different
yeah,
creatures.
we can push to the gargoyles or the
Yeah.
Mothmen or
Which I also think crosses over a little bit with like alien romance,
mm,
which is sci-fi. Ice Planet Barbarians is it's sci-fi, but it also feels like an early version of monster romance.
oh, I did find Ruby Dixon's ones. I don't know why they're not
Oh
on my
yeah.
notes. She started out contemporary. She had biker ones.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I found them. I don't know why I didn't write them down, you big idiot. Yeah, she had some. Sorry,
Don't beat yourself up like that. Just calm
outing
down.
myself on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she had some. So yeah, Ice Planet Barbarians was 2015, and
Mm-hmm.
2014 it was called the Bedlam Butchers. Those were her sort of first books out there, and it was like
Right.
a biker ones,
Oh,
so
okay.
motorcycle clubs
So
and
she
such.
didn't. So I wasn't even aware of when she was first published. So yeah, she's not been around like a massively long time. Not
Just think
like,
how many books she has in
oh
that space
God, I
of time.
know. That's crazy. Where is she
Damn.
moving on to? Because she's
Well,
moved into a little bit
she has
like,
one that I know is coming in October that I am really waiting for. It has a
hmm.
Minotaur in it. So
Yeah.
I have done a pre-order on this chappie, so I can't remember what it's called, but something Moon Rising. I want to say Bad
Okay.
Moon Rising, but that's a song. True
Yeah.
Blood, that's another one we've
Yes. And I think
love
that
to go
comes
True Blood.
under the like, it's kind of urban fantasy, isn't it? Because it's like that
Mm,
thing of she kind of solves crimes, doesn't
mm.
she, with
Yeah,
her
the
extra
romance
sense.
was
Yeah,
yeah,
and the
it
romance is
added.
there, and they happen to have all these other creatures that she finds out about, and she goes through different, you know,
Mm.
boyfriends and stuff until whatever she
Oh,
finishes with.
until they ruined it. Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't go there, so
You should
I'm not
leave it at
traumatized by
5 or 4.
it.
Yes. No, they're still good, but yeah. That's
Yeah,
just my opinion. Go read them all. They're
that's it.
fantastically written stuff.
Yeah, so I think that was interesting. Yeah,
Mm.
little timeline thing. But I don't know. I wish I did because I think then I would
Right
make a
to
lot
order.
more money in the future if I
Yep.
had the power to predict a trend that was coming. That would be very, very valuable in this.
But but even if you did, I suppose the money would be nice because the books would sell quicker and stuff. But people are still always then when you pick that next book up, when you pick that Minotaur book up, you're gonna go back to Siamnas Cost and her book, and then you're
Yeah.
gonna start going into all of that stuff again with Cambric
Mm-hmm.
Creek, and then that's gonna push you back to Lynn Lark, who we've spoken about before
Yeah.
with hers, and then Katie Robert with all of her more
Mm-hmm.
fantasy books.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, that will then push you back to all of the other stuff. So yeah, whatever it is, it's still gonna always loop back, I
Yeah,
think.
this is it. Maybe we'll get more sci-fi, more of a sci-fi push.
It could be. Yeah, the
It could be,
sci-fi is something that
or
we've.
horror. I
Ooh,
think, like Butcher and Blackbird has
yes.
blown up,
Yeah, are they
this
doing a
serial
series of
killer
that
thing.
now?
And there's been quite a lot in contemporary about, yeah, I think the true crime thing is bleeding through a little bit and hitting with feminism. And like I think some of those things are pulling together, and you may end up, yeah, along those lines. I think there might be a little bit more like dark fantasy romance stuff that's happening, along those lines. So, yeah, I mean, I suppose some of it already does a bit, but I think there's a lot of the mafia romance things, and
Gonna
they're
say,
very similar. They're
I was
similar
just thinking,
themes.
if you give me like a vampire mafia boss, I'm thinking Ruben, from
Hmm.
Stay a
Yeah,
Spell stuff. That kind of, I would be
but
all up
actually
in that.
bad. A bit
Yeah, he
more
was.
like
Oh,
Eric,
yeah, a
you
little
know,
bit more Northman.
a
Yeah,
little bit more
a little
Northman.
bit darker.
That's it. And like and she's a bit more like that too. And so there's a bit more like, pitting the crime bosses against each other, or, you know, or going
Mm.
out and dextering people or something. I don't know.
Well, this is it. If you kind of look at it that way, Dexter's coming back, loads of stuff's coming back, so why
Yeah,
not?
this is it.
Mm.
We'll have to
Put it in your
we'll
books.
have to see, yeah, what comes round. But
See,
I have
yeah.
heard people saying about the horror stuff, maybe.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, big epic gothics. I would love with the horror stuff in there.
Yeah, you do get the gothic stuff, but I don't know. It's not. I find it hard to tell when I look at a gothic, even though they might say there's a romance in it. I don't know whether to trust whether it's going to be like a romance with a capital R or it's
Yeah,
just romantic.
yeah. I want Crimson Peak, but with more romance in it.
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
Because I think when you pair romance with gothic, it has a different connotation, doesn't it? It was like the romance meant something different
Yes.
in that time when gothic was a thing.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful. Be careful where you're treading there, because also it
You'll
will
upset.
like lead you on a merry dance towards
Yeah.
the end. Because
Oh God.
again, that does kind of like on that diagram with the horror, and we were talking about like having the darker heroes. That's very much the thing with gothic romance, was the heroine not knowing whether or not the the man that she might be having a relationship but wasn't, is like, is he trying to kill her? Is he trying to like
Well, this is
play
yeah.
mind
This is
games with her, or are
yeah.
they actually going to end up
Yeah.
happily ever
Are we a
after together?
thing? Are we not a thing? Are
And
we?
that's kind
Am
of
I
the
dead?
whole thing through the
Yeah.
story, and you don't know. You don't know where it's going to end
Well, yeah.
up.
Until the last page, it's kind of
That's
there.
it. So maybe people are going to get a little bit more like, it'll spin you along for a little bit longer.
Mm.
I don't know.
It's. I'm looking forward to the next few years.
Yeah, but there's plenty of room for all of it anyway.
Mm. Always.
Yes, very much so. Well, that was it then.
Yeah.
Is that us sorted
Yeah.
for
I
the
think
summer?
that's it for now. Yeah. I'm still there. I'm still reading. I'm still happily waiting for.
Yes.
Well, yeah. So what we're gonna do next?
Yeah, I'm going to finish off Sweet Starfire as well because I've
Oh,
been
are you?
enjoying
So
it.
you say
Yeah.
Starfire, and my
I
mind goes to
know.
yeah.
Yeah, it's Teen Titans, isn't it?
Hmm.
But I mean, maybe she picked it up from there and she didn't realize. Because how long
I
have
know
those
that name's
comics been out? I
familiar.
don't know. It's the 80s and they've been around a while, haven't they? A lot of
Yeah.
those characters. I'll have to
See,
look that up.
Raven in a book would be fantastic, but obviously bigger Raven, not Teen Titans
Yeah.
Raven. But
Maybe superheroes. I've heard
ooh,
they're a hard sell, superheroes, which means
how
that
does that? But
maybe in a few
comics have been.
years.
I was going to say something that was very spoilery then, but I'm not going to. But
Yeah,
no,
no,
not
don't be
no,
doing
just
that.
for
But
no.
yeah,
But
we've
yeah,
had so much of
superheroes should
a.
be
I
massive.
think maybe that's it. I think maybe like we've been flooded by all of the films. So maybe it's
We're
just
done with
too
the Iron Mans of the world.
yeah, that's it. And it's gonna take like the next generation who have not really bought into the new stuff
Mm.
as much as, you know.
Well, they need to stop. They need to stop bringing Robert Downey Jr. in to play all of the roles, basically.
Yes,
Maybe.
that's a weird move that I'm not.
Yeah.
Nah.
Doctor Doom does seem a curious film to want to sit and watch, but yeah,
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
got done way before then. I was done.
I think the majority of people who had followed it and been quite excited about it were like, know when to stop,
Yeah, the
know when
stage
to say.
80,000 is we don't need it. Give our
Yeah,
kids something different
exactly. And
by
maybe that's where it all
remaking all the
comes from.
stuff.
Yeah,
Well, you never know. Put it into book form, then other
that's
people can
it.
get to read it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay.
On that
Right.
note,
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And
mhm,
hopefully you will be around in the autumn to join us for a new season when we've
definitely, I'll
planned
be
it
here.
and we know what we're
Yeah,
doing. I
yeah,
don't know.
obviously, of course we do.
Yeah, it all works out.
All works out nicely in the end, Rodders. It's all good.
Yeah.
Until then, see you
All
soon.
right. Bye.